The story of two men and one podcast. Switch Flicks is a weekly film and TV review show where podcasters Omar Abbas and Haitham Ismail batter their opinions out in a game of wit and sabotage. The rules are simple. Every time a podcaster yells, "Switch!" they have to switch their opinion to the opposite argument. Blood will be shed every Monday. May the odds be ever in our favor. Switch Flicks is a Dukkan media drop. Enjoy!
Hello, hello, hello. So this is our first live show of our game show. Yes, hello, 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 hello. So this is actually going to be recorded. We're going to go by the system that we always do. So let's get started. You ready?
I'm ready. Yep.
You are listening to Switch Flicks, the podcast where we love and hate movies at the same time. I'm your host, Omar, and I'm with my over-the-hill action hero friend, Haitham. Haitham, how are you doing?
You know,
Oh, God.
we watched this movie yesterday,
Yes.
and I wanted to do some research. So I went back home,
Yep.
and I Googled the Rambo franchise.
You Googled, okay.
Yeah, I Googled the first movie, which is called
First Blood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's a pro tip: unless you're a preteen girl who needs a little more information about her puberty, don't Google image First Blood.
My wholly inappropriate friend. We are reviewing Rambo, Last Blood. The rules of the podcast are simple. One of us has to, we watch the movie, we review a film. One of us has to love it. One of us has to hate it. And who does what will be determined by the flip of a coin.
The coin of fate.
The coin of fate.
The coin of fate.
The catch is that at any point throughout the debate, we can call switch to change positions. So if you loved it, you now have to hate it. And if you hated it, you now have to love it. It is time for our patented one-breath synopsis. Haitham, do you have a synopsis for me?
Yes, I've sent it to you. So what usually happens is I find a chunk of synopsis and send it to Omar, and I challenge him to read the whole thing in one breath.
Here we go. Rambo Last Blood is a 2019 American action film directed by Adrian Grunberg. The screenplay, co-written by Sylvester Stallone, is based on the character John Rambo, created by author David Morrell for his first novel, First Blood. The story follows the titular Vietnam War veteran reprised by Stallone as he travels to Mexico to save his adopted daughter, who has been kidnapped by a Mexican cartel, a sequel to Rambo 2008. It is the fifth installment in the Rambo franchise. Rambo Last Blood is a sequel to Rambo First Blood, Rambo First Blood Part 2, Rambo First Blood Part 3, and Rambo 4. After killing 504 people throughout the history of the franchise, Rambo brings the war back home. Yeah! Try harder.
That was okay. I could do it better. I could do it in half a breath. I'm not going to try. I'm now going to flip the coin, of fate.
There we go.
If it lands on heads, you have to love this awful,
God-awful movie.
awful film. Actually, you know what?
Let's have a quick chat, because normally when we do this on the podcast, it's a bit of a surprise. Like, who loved the show, whether we loved it, whether we hated it, we rate it at the end, right? But we'll make an exception in this case, because this film is so uniquely terrible. It is so god-awful and painful that we have to warn you that none of these views are real if we love the film. We have to do a little signature at the bottom of this contract, because...
So, Rambo begins with...
We're going to give you a little bit of a rundown,
Yes.
just so that you're on board.
With our hero Rambo
Here we go.
at a ranch being a cowboy. He lives with his childhood nanny,
His friend.
who is younger than him.
Yes.
And they have raised a little daughter together.
Yeah, he's like the uncle. Rambo's an uncle. He's on the ranch. He tends to horses. He's living a good life, but he's got some darkness inside, clearly.
A lot of darkness.
A lot of darkness.
Rambo's daughter decides to go to Mexico to find her real father.
She's an angel. She's a beautiful,
Nice.
wonderful
She's
angel.
16.
She's an angelic
She
girl.
has a whole life ahead of her. And Rambo tells him, do not go to Mexico. Mexico is the worst.
Mexico is apparently the worst place in the world.
This movie hates Mexicans. Everybody in Mexico is
bad. It's just bad.
terrible. They are all drug addicts or selling drugs.
They're into
or
prostitution, heroin. I mean, every single one.
All of it.
It's awful.
She does not listen to Rambo. She decides to go to Mexico
Just across the border.
meet her, father, who turns out to be a douchebag.
He turns out to be the worst father of all time. He
Well,
literally kicks her out of the house
I mean,
right
he is
away.
a Mexican father. so-
Clearly.
She then goes to her Mexican friends who sells her out.
Who's the
into
worst friend of all time, apparently because she's Mexican as
Sells her
well.
out to a prostitution.
She sells
ring.
her into prostitution ring.
Then Rambo goes to save her from this prostitution ring. He gets beat up. He gets his face cut. Then some awful things happen to this girl.
Then it becomes extremely violent. This girl is, she just gets destroyed by this prostitution ring, and then Rambo takes revenge.
They make her addicted to drugs.
Yes.
She's raped
It's
multiple
horrible.
times, and then he tries to save her and she dies. This movie is the worst. And then he takes revenge and kills everybody, but by the end of it, you hate yourself
You're exhausted. at the
and
end.
you hate Mexicans.
Yeah. And Rambo, you probably
So
hate
now that
Rambo.
you know what the movie is about,
We can get started.
I'm going to flip the coin of fate. I really hope you have to love this movie.
Christ.
Okay, if it lands on heads, you love it. Lands on tails, you hate it. Here goes nothing. Heads.
I have to love the movie. Here we go. All right. Let us begin. When I first watched Rambo in the 80s with my mom and with my brother, I was just taken by this magnificent beast of a man who single-handedly could just do anything. And he was misunderstood. He had post-traumatic stress disorder. He was just beaten down by the world. It was an anti-war film. It was just the beginning of something great. And then through the years, we followed Rambo. We went with Rambo to Vietnam. We went with Rambo to Cambodia. We went with Rambo to Afghanistan. And now we come back home with Rambo for the ultimate conclusion to this incredible journey, Rambo, Last Blood. I love this movie.
When you went to watch this movie in the 80s with your mom,
Yes.
I wasn't born. You are
Calling me old?
very old. And I did not realize this
Yep.
unless this moment. Maybe I should be friends with
Yes.
people my own age.
Uh-huh.
But let's get back to the movie. This movie is awful. It is repulsive. It hates women. It hates Mexicans. It hates its audience. And I hate you for making me watch this movie.
See, listen, you're missing the point of Rambo Last Blood. Rambo Last Blood, it doesn't pull its punches. Rambo Last Blood takes the bitter, dirty truth and it just puts it right in your face and it says, hey, listen, life is not just all roses. It's not pretty. It's not, you don't have to have happy endings. It is a serious, introspective look into the damage that is being caused by us to us.
I have been telling you this every time you go to a massage. Life is not all about happy endings. I don't need a movie to prove that, right? Especially a movie like this. Let me start with the title. Last Blood. What does that mean?
It is a bookend, my friend. First blood, last blood. I mean, what's so hard to understand
first
about that?
blood. You draw first blood. Nobody draws last blood. You just die.
Excuse me, Rambo draws last blood.
And he draws a lot of blood. This movie is so violent. Like, I have some testosterone, right?
No,
I like violence.
you don't. You don't have testosterone,
I said
and that's
some,
probably why you didn't appreciate this movie. Look, I don't have an issue with your feminine wiles. I don't have an issue with how soft you are and the fact that you gaze at me longingly every now and then. It's fine, but when we watch this film, it does require a little bit of steel in your veins, a little bit of firmness, so that you can appreciate the masculine prowess of Rambo and what he's doing to help us all.
You know what? I think the ladies from the podcast that were before us will disagree with your assumption about some man steel or whatever you called it, right?
Uh-huh.
This movie is not digestible for anybody. Let's just talk about how it treats some of its female characters.
Go for it.
They have nothing to do. They have
Okay.
nothing to say except be brutalized, be hurt, be sexually assaulted. Even our hero, the first act of aggression he does is he goes to a 17-year-old girl and he physically and verbally assaults her.
How does that make you feel?
Not good.
Switch.
And that's how you're supposed to feel with these things. Here is a movie that makes me realize what a terrible world is out there, right? Movies aren't here to make you feel okay about your own worldview. You have to see other worldviews. You have to see what kind of world is out there.
Listen, all right, when I go to the movie theater, I go there not to be reminded about all of the horrible things that are going on around us. I've got the news for that. All right? When I watch a movie, I want to feel a sense of catharsis. I want to feel a sense of release so that I can feel like some justice is being done to the horrible things that are
And
happening.
so much justice is being done. We all know Mexicans are the worst. Stay out of my country. Build the wall.
Look,
right?
the problem with this movie is that it takes all of these tropes, all these stereotypes, all of these really small-minded attitudes, and it just piles them up into one film, and it dishes them out into this Trump era, okay, trying to just rile up a few bucks from here and there so they can make some money for this over-the-hill Sylvester Stallone, who, by the way, can't act anymore because his face doesn't move.
Okay, so he's over the hill, Mr. I was born in the 80s. Okay, is that what you're talking about? No, your liberal SJW, I'm so sensitive stuff doesn't work here. This movie is showing the truth, and Stallone is amazing. He's such a great actor. There is so much experience in his face and in his eyes.
There is so much Botox in his face and in his eyes as well. Look, Sylvester Stallone isn't known to be an eloquent man. He's not known for his ability to speak at length, but, you know, he has had personality in the past, in Rocky and in Rambo, you know, in the past. But as this film progressed, his ability to speak was gradually reduced until by the end of it, he spoke in vowels. That's it. His mouth did not close at all.
That's the point. You are feeling his pain. He can barely talk anymore. And if you think that that wasn't an amazing performance, I have an argument for this that will completely just shut you up. Okay, this point
All right.
is one of the best points I've ever made.
Okay, I can't wait for this.
History
I'm looking forward to this.
of this
Let's go.
podcast.
Yeah. Look, the great thing about this is that the only thing about this was that as we were watching this movie, it had Arabic subtitles, right? But no English subtitles. So I understood what Rambo was saying, but Haitham had no idea.
Even if you understood what he was, am I loving this movie or hating
You're loving
it?
this movie, right?
And even if you don't understand what he's saying, his skills with his face, his expressions are so amazing.
All right. Let's jump tracks a little bit. Let's talk about the violence. Let's talk about the bloodbath that happens,
Amazing.
as we approach.
The last third of this movie is Rambo doing Home Alone, right? He sets up traps for these Mexicans, and one by one, he kills them, he destroys them. It is so much fun. It feels so good to finally see these terrible things happen.
Switch again.
It is so terrible to see any of this happen to anybody. Like, watching this movie is like walking through, like, torture. Like, you see so many terrible things happen. You feel terrible about, like, I wanted to kill myself by the end of this movie.
And if you had killed yourself, it would have been more entertaining than watching this movie. That's the issue, right? Wait, am I supposed to love this again?
You're hating it. You're hating it.
Am I hating it?
Yes.
I'm hating it now? I'm loving it.
You're loving it.
I'm loving it. I'm loving it? I love it, yeah.
Okay.
I'm loving it. Okay. All right. The thing with this director is that he has only ever worked as an assistant director on past movies, right?
I believe so, yes.
Right. And this was his chance to come and take all of his experience from all these past movies and shine. And that he did. He was able to bring his experience from working on incredible movies like Man on Fire. You could see little glimpses of that, little glimpses of the way that Tony Scott directs. He got that because he was an assistant director on Man on Fire.
He should have shined more. Maybe they could use that as some lighting, because the lighting in this movie makes no sense.
It is cinema verite, my friend. It is rough. It is real. It is meant to take you there and not make you feel like there is some kind of,
No, you could barely see anything. They did not
a pretty
light this
picture,
movie.
man. Life is not a pretty picture, okay? And you're just going in there
I have to
trying
see you every
sanitize
day.
things.
I know life is not a pretty picture.
Listen, you look in the mirror every day, so clearly life is not a pretty picture.
Okay. Let's wrap it up there.
All right. Shall we wrap it up? Okay. All right, guys. Well, look, this is, we could go on, clearly. But let us take this debate to its natural conclusion.
Yes.
And let me ask you really now, honestly.
Yes.
How many decapitated heads would you give this movie?
0.
Zero.
This is the worst movie I've seen all year or in many, 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 many years. Not as many years as you have lived.
Clearly.
Quite, maybe half as many. Yeah, no, I hated this film.
I completely agree. I went into this film and I saw the hero of my youth completely trampled. It was exhausting. It was debilitating. It was just painful. Just sitting through that. The only reason we didn't walk out was because we came here to share it with you. So we sat through it to the end. So it was a brutal slog. Not recommended. But hey, you know, he
That's
sacrificed
life.
himself for us. Okay, so guys, if you enjoyed this episode of Switch Flicks, please join the what is it? Find us on all podcatchers, rate, subscribe, and leave a comment. It really helps us grow the community.
We are called Switch Flicks.
We're called Switch Flicks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.